I don't have the level of impact where if it was my own business. But I know that every hour that I put in benefits 50 other people. If I leave here or something happens, I know that my work here meant something. And to me, that is irreplaceable. For me, trying to lead the corporate way would be unusual because I came from cleaning carpets and working with my hands the whole way through. The wealth building sounds really amazing, but also it's like, yes, it does sound amazing.
a little too good to be true, maybe. Yeah.
So I had a million questions. So the initial hesitancy of like, is this real? They say these things, but is this true? And then quickly that going away. Okay, this has potential here to be something that really aligns with what my ideals would be.
I'm excited today to welcome Rachel Wolf to Empowered Owners. Welcome to the show, Rachel.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Happy
absolutely.
To be here.
So I'm excited to chat with you today. You work for one of Empowered's portfolio companies, Paramount Plastics in Elkhart, Indiana. And maybe to start, why don't you share a little bit about how you ended up at Paramount, who you are, and what you do for the company today?
Well, I guess I'll start with what I do for the company. I'm the Director of Finance and Strategy. So I'm responsible for all the financial aspects of the business, preparing those financial statements. And I also help with the strategy for our growth plan and the culture at Paramount Plastics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm responsible too for the ESOP committee and all that goes into that. How I got here is quite a story. I don't know if we want to start at the very beginning or...
Wherever you want.
Sure. So my parents started a business or got the opportunity to buy a franchise of Stanley Steamer Carpet Cleaning. When I was probably 12, we originally are from Indianapolis, and then we moved up to Northern Indiana to run a Stanley Steamer franchise. And I helped them do that, obviously, from 12. Boy, we were there for, I want to say till I was 20. So it was quite a length of time there. That gave me a really unique opportunity to see what owning a business is like, for the better or worse. And we could go into that now if you want, or not. But after that, I went and worked for an e-commerce company here in Elkhart. I moved up to Elkhart, Indiana, because I went to college here at IUSB. Graduated college, started working as an accounting assistant for a medium-sized e-commerce company right down the road. And then I worked my way up there to eventually be a director of operations and accounting there. And then I pursued this opportunity here at Paramount. And so now I'm here.
That's great. And when did you join Paramount? How long ago?
That would have been February of 24. So almost 2 years.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you pursued the opportunity. It's been a joy getting to know you, and just really excited that you're at Paramount and for the work you're doing. Let's circle back to your childhood experience, kind of in the family business. You said for you that started when you were 12 years old. Is that what you said? Yeah. Yep. So what were those 8 years like, and what lessons did you personally take away from that experience?
It's kind of, I think, cool. And also, like I said, there's pros and cons. So being a part of, it was a very small franchise. We only had maybe 4 or 5 people that worked with us. But my mom and dad my dad wanted the opportunity to run a business the way that he felt like people should be treated, right? Not to say that the businesses that he worked for prior were bad or anything, but you hear stories and your friends have experiences that are negative, and he really wanted to have an impact on people in a positive way. And that's been instilled in me for a very long time. And my mom obviously wants to, go where my dad wants to go. And obviously they're a team, right? So they bought that franchise with the hopes of, being able to make some money and also have an impact on people's lives. And my dad really likes working with people. And so does my mom, obviously. But as a Stanley Steamer, for people who don't know, obviously we go and clean people's carpets. Usually you're doing 6 or it could be up to 6 houses a day. If your route is set up properly. So that was a really cool experience because I got to meet, I don't know how many houses. We tried to do the math one day on how many houses we've cleaned, and got to meet so many different people, different walks of life, and where people are in different class structures or economic settings. We did a lot of pro bono work too. So it was like, free carpet cleanings for people that needed it. whether they were going to be evicted or they just don't have the money or the capacity to take care of themselves. And that was super eye-opening. And I'm really happy that my dad prioritized that as part of my childhood. My brother also worked with a company. So we, through that whole process growing up together in the business and then watching my parents and their work ethic, like that's something that you can teach a lot of that stuff, but being in the environment, I think, was really impactful to me. On the flip side of that, I also learned that I probably don't ever want to run my own business solo, right? Because just the grind from 0 employees to trying to build that and watching them sacrifice over and over again, and dealing with the employees have real life issues too, right? So if they call off, there is no at 2 people working. It's, I guess my dad, he's like, I gotta call Rachel and she's gonna have to come work on her day off because otherwise, we don't have money for food. So
Wow.
yeah, there was a lot of sacrifices, and I think I don't know, I think they're okay with their decision to do it. But for me, it was probably, from my perspective, one of the best decisions that they did for me. Wow. Yeah. And then they ended up getting rid of the business or walking away from it because my mother got really sick. And they moved back to Indianapolis, and I stayed up here because I graduated college. But that's how, I paid my way through college. I was having a flexible schedule with my parents, luckily. And I know not everybody gets that opportunity, but I had an opportunity where my parents owned a business and I paid my way through college working with flexible schedules, And so I'm truly grateful for that opportunity. And like I said, it taught me work ethic and the things that I want to do and things that I don't want to do, and got the opportunity with customer service, which I think everybody should do some level of customer service in their life. It really teaches you a level of empathy and understanding, and you get to see so many people that you wouldn't see, just a regular office job, right? You're only going to see the 4 or 5 people around you. And the customer service aspect, I think, teaches you a lot of empathy from my perspective. So that was a lot of my life until I graduated college. Yeah. And then I was, at the point where they hadn't moved yet, and I was ready to start my professional career, if you will. So I pursued an opportunity where I was an accounting assistant at a small e-commerce company up here. So yeah.
Were there ever any times during all of that, and thank you for sharing, it's such an amazing story, honestly, about the challenges and the beauty of like a small family-owned business. Were there any times where you like resented kind of being a child and having to kind of have this thing kind of be such a big part of your experience, I guess? Or was it just obvious to you that this was like almost like a good experience for you to be going through?
It's an interesting question. I would say I went through probably when I was 14. I wasn't on a truck yet at 14. I think my first job was when I was 16 or so, and we went and did a couple of night jobs at like commercial buildings. But I would say around 14, my mom kind of sat me down and was trying to educate me because I was getting frustrated, right? So all my other friends, have these, like, for example, they can take vacations.
Yeah.
That's not a thing, whether it's for money or there's nobody else to run that business, and you can't just take a week off when you're paycheck to paycheck in that phase. So it was selfish 14-year-old trying to say, like, is this really what you guys want to do? Because maybe this, we could do something different as a family. We don't have to, I don't have to watch you guys kill yourselves every day. Right. And my mom kind of sat me down and was like, this is our thing and our dream, and we want to do it. And her big thing a lot with teaching me empathy was like a main driver for her. And I remember when I was right around that age and I was coming home from school and complaining, you've got like small, oh, Susie's upsetting me because of whatever. And I remember getting really frustrated because my mom's point of view, and my dad's also, was always, it was never like, yeah, you're right, she's frustrating. It was always like, well, did you ask Susie like why she's upset? Like, maybe you should think about somebody else instead of, it's important to recognize where you're at, but also it gets way easier if you take the opportunity to think about somebody else and what they're feeling, and then funnel that through your own vision and see what she's, you'll come to a better outcome. So my parents always did that to me. And my mom's big thing was anybody that was always a yes man or didn't push me or didn't pressure me or ask me questions about why I'm behaving a certain way. assuming that that's somebody that you trust and love and respect, right? And all that. Those are the, yeah. You don't ever want somebody in your corner that doesn't do that or isn't close knit with you in that way. They feel like they can express those feelings to you. So for me, I think I got over that pretty quickly, and it felt more like this was our family unit. And even the people that worked with us, this is my family, right? And because when you're that small, it's like do or die, right? If I call off work, I literally know what that person's going to go through because I have to deal with that, right? Now I'm going to go out on a truck solo and try and do 6 jobs and move all the furniture by myself and unload and stack and all this stuff. Yes, I would say for a half a second. And then my mom, really sat me down and was like, this is an opportunity that now she phrased it as not everybody gets this opportunity, right? And they don't. It's an American dream to be able to run your own business. And yeah, so they were grateful, and there were some negatives, but I would say all in all, and probably their opinion too, what we got out of it as a family, like that stuff you can't just teach anybody. You got to go through that, right? So probably not, other than watching them struggle was hard. But again, I don't think that's me putting that on them, right? If they think that that's worth it and that's something that they want to do, who am I to say, maybe you guys should take a vacation? I would love to see them happy, right? Yeah. And if this is what they want to do, then I'm going to support them in that, whatever that looks like. Yeah. So yeah, maybe a little bit when I was really young, but that sort of got sorted.
Yeah. So, well, I love that answer. Just thank you again for being willing to share that story briefly here. I mean, I think it's obviously a very powerful experience that you went through, and sure, it's neat to kind of feel. It feels like it's continuing today to kind of influence how you think about what it means to lead and work with a group of people. Do you feel like it is still kind of formative or influencing how you think today?
Yeah, I would say for sure. Even when my first opportunity out of college with the e-commerce business, where I was just an accounting assistant, I didn't know what I wanted to do, if I was going to be a big fish in a small pond, all that, I don't know. It's my first outside of my parents' business. And went through a whole bunch of stuff there. But to come to Paramount when I was trying to find a different opportunity at that time, one of the things that Curtis, the president of Paramount Plastics, who interviewed me, asked me is, do you want to be a big fish in a small pond or a small fish in a big pond? And at the time, I went through the 10 years at my last place, but I was like, I'm okay with either. Like, I'll be okay. And Curtis was like, I don't know if that's true. And even now I'm like, I tried to tell myself that I would be okay with that. But I think because I had other opportunities at bigger, what you call bigger, sure, accounting places, or, where I would have multiple people under me or around me, et cetera, doing similar things. And I think I would be, every position I go to, it's like I want it to be a family, and I want the close-knit, and I want to feel like I have an impact one way or another. And if I sit down and really think about it, some of those other opportunities where I would just be doing a function of the accounting, that would feel unimpactful to the people side. And that to me is evidently very important, because it seems like I cannot stop myself from wanting to, like, I don't know, I want to leave a positive impact for people that I work with. And that was one of the eventual things. Obviously, when you first get started with Paramount, we could talk about that and how that has changed over time. But having this opportunity where every time and hour that I put into the business means, because like when we refer to legacy, right? One of the benefits of having your own business is that you could potentially leave a legacy for your kids. And at the last place, I didn't exactly have that. It took me a while to figure out that I didn't have that, and I was missing that. But here I have that opportunity because it's employee owned, and the longevity of it is there. And every hour that I put in means something to someone else. So for me, at the last place, when I was just, I noticed I maybe rolled this out in the wrong order, but I was working so many hours, and mimicking my parents without the actually owning the business. And at the end of it, felt like, boy, I put in a lot and gave a lot of myself, and now I don't have control or the ability to take care of people in the way that I want to. and this doesn't feel like I need it to. So having Paramount, where maybe I don't have the level of impact where if it was my own business, but I know that every hour that I put in benefits 50 other people, and then some, right? So every effort that I make to making sure that the financials are better, a continuous improvement, or directly, I'm lucky in the sense that I have a leadership position here where I have the ability to make decisions that actually can help people. But even if I didn't, and I had just been a controller, which was the original position that I was hired for, and I just did the finances, every hour I put in makes a difference. And if I leave here or something happens, I know that my work here meant something. And to me, that is irreplaceable, I would say.
That's awesome. I want to dig in a little bit to, being an accountant. And like maybe like when did you realize, and I'm curious if it was back at Stanley Steamer, with your parents, when did you realize you had like an acumen for the books and the numbers and stuff?
I'm not so sure that I actually figured it out.
Okay.
Honestly, my parents did not have an acumen for the books or the numbers. They had passion, they had work ethic, they're intelligent, but they learned through environment and not necessarily the education. My dad went to college to be a cartographer, and my mom was a nurse. And how they ended up at Stanley Steamer is amazing, but they weren't super skilled at it. And it was that the legacy there would be that I would run that business eventually. So my mom and dad were like, you're a smart kid, you're good at math, which I think as formally trained, that there's there's math, but it's more about how your brain processes the numbers or the seeing patterns and critical thinking than it is the math. But at the time I was like, that's true, I'm good at math, I can do math. And if that's all it takes, at 14 or whatever I was, if that's all it takes to be good at, being an accountant, I can do that. And they wanted me to go into HR as well because there's a lot of, legal stuff. And mom and dad knew that if I ever had my own business, much like they cannot afford a separate accountant and an HR person. So if I could learn those skill sets, I would be way off, way better off than they were in their opportunity, whether that would be Stanley Steamer or my own business at some point. So they were the ones who pushed me into it. And I don't think that I ever knew I was particularly good at anything. And I would say I'm not sure that I have any, or that I did have any innate talents. Some people are just really good at certain things. I would say all of mine is from practice. So the one thing that I guess, which is, I don't know that it's unique, but it is maybe unique to my work ethic, is I'm not particularly good at things when I get to them. It's that I practice them and then I put the work in. And I'm, one of those other things that my parents always made sure I knew was that we don't quit. So if you start something or you say you're going to do something, you do it, right? So I just got good at it and assessed where I was weak at on certain things. And then I practiced those things and they get better. So it wasn't that I was like, boy, I really love this accounting thing. It was more like, I need this. I'm going to need this as a skill set. And so I'm going to learn it. Same with like, they don't teach you how to manage a credit score in high school. And I was like, my parents are not very good at this. I need this. I'll just Google it and figure it out. Yeah, stuff like that. So it turns out that I really enjoy it. And I like one of my favorite parts about cleaning carpets is you can see the progress that you're making. And then when you're done, you get to stand back and say, look what this is nice, right? And I made someone else feel comfy in their home and all this kind of stuff. And the accounting, you sort of get that when you're like, I figured it out and all the things balance and it's all gravy and this looks reasonable. Yeah. And then the fun part about the accounting, which I didn't know was a thing until I got into it, which is, okay, so I've done all these numbers. Now what can I do with these, right? Who could benefit from me explaining what this is? Because not everybody knows how the financials work. So yeah, I wouldn't say that I ever, eventually it dawned on me when I got to my first job, the one that I was at before this. And I was like, oh, I might actually be decent at this and not just out of necessity. But it was never really like, it was more a necessity to be good at it because I know I need money and I know I'm going to have to, I'm going to have to be good at it so I don't lose my job. It's out of necessity. Yeah. And then it grew into a passion, I guess. Yeah.
That's great.
So
That's great. It does. I have a feeling you might be selling yourself a little short on the skills side, but I'll let it pass.
Okay. Aye, Captain. All right.
But I do wonder, you mentioned a shift in there that I think is actually more than, it's kind of a big deal, which is, the classic accounting job is, like you mentioned, like do the books, close the books, the numbers are accurate, they're backward looking. It's like, here's how we did. And a lot of kind of typical accountants would just kind of feel great about that. They'd balanced the books, they did the work. And then, but you mentioned a mind shift towards kind of, well, what do we do with these numbers now? And I noticed on your LinkedIn, like you talk about strategic finance or strategic forward accounting. What, for those that don't know what that really means, like I guess before we go to that, like where did you learn that? Because that's not necessarily obvious to all accountants.
Sure. Yeah. That would have been I suppose you probably could have drawn it all the way back to the beginning with Steamer, which is like my parents not knowing how inventory works or how to strategically purchase things. And even if we had the numbers, okay, well now, like this is helpful, I guess, but what does this mean? There's got to be something more to, like, people are not at 16, right? My opinion was people are not putting all this stuff together to do nothing with it. There's got to be another stage of this accounting thing. And then but I didn't know enough or know how to do it or what to do with really any of those numbers. Obviously, some of them are straightforward. I know what revenue is at 16, but I don't know, I don't know gross profit. I don't know. Yeah. So the first real job that I had, I guess, in accounting, which would be the admin assistant, when I got there, one of the biggest struggles that they had was they were an e-commerce company where they're dealing with 10,000 transactions a day, but they're small. So Amazon, eBay, Walmart, all those places they used to sell online for, and you would just get a listing of here's 10,000 payments, here's some fees, here's taxes, sort it all out. And at the time they didn't have somebody with the IT acumen to like be able to figure out, and they didn't have anybody who knew how to do that. So they were like, do you think that maybe with your computer stuff, you might be able to get in here and figure this out? I'm like, yeah, sure. Why not? I could take a stab at it. Because believe it, back then, which I know wasn't that long ago, but PayPal and all those places didn't give you like, hi, Rachel, here's your sale one, and it was $2. It's very back then it was very convoluted, and they didn't have decimal points for reasons I'll never know. And the way that you would track things was with transaction IDs, but they wouldn't tell you that. So I had to do a whole bunch of research and digging on that, figure all that stuff out. And again, to the point of that's just, once I did all of that, I'm like, okay, well now what? Right? Because I've spent, a lot of it came out of, I don't have enough to do. Once I fix all the things or we start reporting the things, now I've got another 2 weeks, right? Of what can I do? Is it forecasting that we should do? Should I look at what the sales are going to be, produce budgets for people, try and hold people accountable to those budgets? Do we need to assess those budgets? On the gross profit for the parts, is this where we're comfy at? Do we like 60%? Do we like 10% on this one? And why? Super important. Or why is this one, if we thought that it was going to be a 10% margin, why isn't it? At that first e-commerce job, it's very convoluted, and once you know it, it's not so bad. It's just tedious then. But in the beginning, we're buying from multiple platforms with different commission fees and different advertising fees. There's a nexus in all 50 states that I had to do. There's the shipping from one state to another, and whether that's UPS, USPS, or FedEx. I have to know everybody's different pricing strategies, and they're all different. And then how do we optimize the gross profit on every sale? Because it's hard to get new sales. It's easy for me to optimize. Well, easy, right? I have data. If I have the data and we can go through it and make sense of it, then we can improve the business, and then I can take those profits and distribute them, hopefully.
Awesome. No, that makes a lot of sense. And that's such a great, anecdote for like why having accurate numbers is the beginning of what really like the finance function is meant to provide. So that's awesome. All right. I want to dig into some other stuff with Paramount. So When you first came to Paramount, what was your experience of the company, employee ownership? Like, what were your impressions initially? And then how have those changed over time?
When I first, so my impressions might not be fair, but the first impression is interviewing for probably a similar size to what I was coming from. And it was manufacturing, which is what I was most excited about because I had done distribution, basically. Buying goods from someone else. My cost of goods is the purchase price, right? And then landed maybe, and then shipping. But I wanted to get into manufacturing accounting, and I thought, well, this is great, right? This is a medium-sized company with a lot of opportunity for myself. And it seems they say that it's, family-driven. Well, I don't want to even use the word family, but there's this ESOP thing, and I didn't know what it was. There were, they're not red flags, but they felt like red flags at the beginning because it was held by another company, right? And one of the things that I was always passionate about was sort of to my dad's point, which is I want to be able to have the impact and I want to be able to, make calls for the people. And I don't want somebody that's 8 years away that has no idea. Yeah. And like trying to tell my employees, whether it's a point policy or whether it's how they should be or how many people they feel like I need or something as simple as whether or not we should have this break room here or that. Right. And obviously Curtis was like, that's not what they do. Like,
yeah. I'll believe it when I see it.
I've heard that before. Nobody does. Yeah. And I think you guys or Paramount had been recently, I think 2022 or 2021, somewhere in there.
Yep. Late 2021. Yep.
Yeah. And I was like, well, it's still somewhat new, but I don't know. And so I went home and Googled what an ESOP was and then realized that it was, there's some protections in here. This is not going to be like an Enron situation.
Right.
So I had concerns about that because the wealth building sounds really amazing, but also it's like, yes, it does sound amazing.
a little too good to be true, maybe. Yeah.
So I had a million questions that luckily I was able to get answered, and that made me feel better. And once I got started, I thought, well, worst case scenario, if this is not what it is, then I guess I can go somewhere else. And obviously pretty quickly figured out that's not the case, right? And there's full transparency on the way that it operates. And if I had questions, I'm able to ask literally anybody, which is something that doesn't happen at other companies. So the initial hesitancy of like, is this real? Is this actually, they say these things, but is this true? And then it quickly, that going away. And then joining the ESOP committee and being like, okay, this has potential here to be something that really aligns with what my ideals would be, right? Or are. So yeah, it's been really nice. And I really have not had the opportunity to work with people that I have here, like some of the diversity and just everything from culturally, and it's just a really unique, cool place to work. And everybody is so supportive. And I would say that I had that at my last place, and I did, but that was so hard to build without having employee ownership culture just be something that's in the bylaws. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And here it's almost implied. It's not that it's easy. It takes work to build and we work on it every day, but it's definitely the foundation's there already, which is nice. I don't feel like I'm fighting an uphill battle.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What has your personal experience been kind of understanding your own leadership style and being comfortable with that, and especially maybe in the context of a blue collar, manufacturing company? Like how do you think about what it means to lead with your personal kind of from your orientation and who you are?
I think for me, trying to lead the corporate way would be unusual because I came from cleaning carpets and working with my hands the whole way through. And even at the last job that I started, I was in an office, but that did not last long. And I started working on the floor, which is how I moved into the operations side. It seems inevitable that I cannot prevent myself from doing that.
Yeah.
There's something to be said about doing the financials and then seeing it on the floor, So maybe I'm not answering the question, but for me, I wouldn't know any other way except to lead with my hands and be on the floor with the people and like hand trimming parts here. I want to learn the vinyl oven and the forming oven and all this stuff. And it's not just because like I want to be able to do it. It's because not only for the financial point, there's things there that are maybe blank spots that I might be able to see and improve, but for the quality of life for the employee, right? Sometimes as a leader, if you don't see those or you don't see them firsthand or you don't go experience it, it's too easy to just say, it's probably not worth spending X amount of money on, right? Or maybe there's a communication gap between people on the floor and the office staff, if you will. And that's a real thing that happens at every business that I would love to see go away. And the only way I think you can do that is do the job yourself and be on the floor with the people and do the job with them. I don't get to do that as much as I want to because there's so much strategic and accounting and stuff that we have up here. But for me, I think leading by being on the floor and asking them what they need and trying to be that voice for them is something that's important to me. And I don't know that I would probably, as much as I told myself I could go work for a corporate situation, I'm not so sure that I could. They would probably kick me out. I'd be very frustrating for them. So yeah, it's been really nice here. And everybody that works here has been really open to talking to me about, this is a struggle, this is a thing, and maybe we can't do this because of resources, but it's something that gets added to a list for us to look at, right? So yeah.
That's great. Thank you. I think I could ask you. We could keep going on and on about kind of Paramount and other things that you're working on and the progress that's been made in the last year. But I think we're running a little low on time.
Sorry.
So no, don't apologize. This has all been awesome. So thank you. To wrap up, I think we have a fun finishing topic here. So
yes.
what I like to do a Mount Rushmore sometimes with our guests. And I'm curious, what came to mind for you when we asked you about that question, and what's the topic of the day, I guess, for this question?
For me, I was torn between two things that were my Mount Rushmore because I recently, within the last 4 years or so, really got into weightlifting and training and strength training. So I was like, well, maybe I could do that, but that felt, I don't want to say unoriginal, but somewhat unoriginal. So I was like, the other passion that I have outside of work, and there are other ones, but one of the ones that I've had since I was a kid with my little brother and my dad is video game, just video games in general. Yeah. So I made a Mount Rushmore of my most impactful video games that have taught me some skill sets, because I feel like video games get a bad rap. And Curtis had told me that if I had put that on my resume, maybe he would not have interviewed me. And I was like, that's because you don't know, Curtis. You don't appreciate. But there are some skills that I've learned through those. And just to give there's some pros and cons of video games, right? There are negatives associated with them. And those are real. But just for any parents out there, it's not all so bad,
right?
And there's a lot of social aspects to them too. And so I made a Mount Rushmore of the video games that have taught me some skill sets throughout my life. Yes.
That's awesome. So what are the top 4 for you video games that have helped you have applicable life skills, Rachel?
There you go. Yeah. The first one is just nostalgia because it was the first game that my dad and my little brother played together. And that was, it's called Desert Strike. And it's just like what would that be? That's almost 15 or 20 years ago now.
I was going to say I played Desert Strike.
It's been more than that. Yeah, did you?
It's been a while.
Yeah. My dad was trying to show us on the Sega Genesis, and like just being in the living room on the floor with Dad and Michael was like a really fun experience for me. And that's my brother and I's first intro to that. And like a little bonding thing where my dad and I got to play games together on Saturday instead of watch cartoons. He'd like show you like, hey, this is what you got to do. You got to think about the next thing. Anyway, so that was the first one. And then the next one that I started playing was a little game called RuneScape, which is a MMO. So it's basically all online with other people. And that I want to say I started that when I was, again, like prior to 6th grade or somewhere around there, right when we took over the Stanley Steamer franchise. And being able to meet people and talk to people. And that was actually the math part of it and the strategic, how do I make money? Like,
that
like was
Monopoly
a lot of that.
kind of, but on steroids.
Yeah. So it was like, what's the fastest way for me to make money in this game? Because they have like a little auction thing. And so I was like doing the math on the back end. If I can mine 6 nodes in 2 minutes, and then I take those nodes and I turn them into this smithing thing over here, and then I sell them for this in a matter of 2 years, I will be a millionaire in this game. So
perseverance, dedication,
you got
strategy.
it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yes. And then, also a little bit of social skills. And then I had RuneScape I had RuneScape, and then I had WoW. World of Warcraft is another MMO. I started that one in 2007, and I've been playing that ever since. So that's quite a commitment.
Warcraft is probably one of the most popular games ever. It's got to be in the top 5, I would think.
I would think so. At one point in time, they had millions and millions of players. Yeah, and it's probably not there now because there's such a wide gap for everybody, and everybody plays different things now. But that one I started when I was very young on we didn't have I probably didn't have dial-up, but it was right after dial-up, and playing and lagging and doing the whole thing. And that one was also social skills, same thing, right? Learning my rotations and social skills and trying to figure out, because we had guilds in that game where you would work together to accomplish an end goal. And trying to get, I'm never going to put that on a resume, but trying to get, 60 people or 40 people coordinated in a way that we can accomplish this end goal together. And, so-and-so's got kids that they've got to deal with. Well, how do we strategize around that? All that kind of fun stuff that I got to be a part of. And I forgot my other meaningful.
Zelda.
I skipped Zelda. Yeah, so that was my second one, and that was with my little brother. So that one was for sure problem solving and for sure puzzle game. And back then, for everybody who doesn't know how old I am, back then you didn't have internet, and they barely had strategy books, and I didn't have the money to go buy the books. Right. So me and Michael would spend hours and being like, all right, if we flip this switch, and then the water comes up, and then I have to go back down and do the thing. And so between the two of us trying to do problem solving and puzzle games, I maybe some of that's innate to me, but I can't help but think between my brother and looking at his skill set and mine that I do believe that some of that, just for parents' relief, doing some puzzle strategy games and working with other people in video games and stuff, it can be positive overall. So yes, that's my Mount Rushmore.
I love it. Thank you, Rachel. That's awesome. And thank you again for coming on the show today. Hopefully we'll have you back at some point.
Cool. Yeah, I appreciate it. It's been fun. Thank you.
Thanks.